Before I call the honourable member for Mallee, I remind the House that this is the honourable member's first speech. I ask the House and the galleries to extend to her the usual courtesies. I give the call to the member for Mallee.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people on whose land we meet today and the 11 traditional owner groups across Mallee. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Mr Speaker, sometimes a place chooses you rather than you choosing it. Going back more than 40 years, a complex array of circumstances relating to my honeymoon, a computer glitch, the tardy invention of mobile phones and a visit by the CIB conspired to bring me to Mallee. 2 weeks after our wedding, my husband and I found ourselves driving from Melbourne for many hours up the Calder Highway, flanked by red dirt, mallee scrub and saltbush. I remember asking him, "Are you sure you know where you're going?" Just out of Redcliffs, we caught sight of undulating hectares of vineyards, heavily laden with beautiful ripe grapes. It was an oasis in the desert. Mr Speaker, I can tell you that the sight of Mildura Township brought relief to this young bride. That was the beginning of a one-year internship for my husband at the local hospital. The rest, as they say, is history. The Sunraysia district remains an oasis in the desert due to the irrigation system developed by 2 entrepreneurial Canadian brothers, the Chaffeys. The challenge was the desert, the solution was the river, the innovation was irrigation, pumps and systems to manage water. These brothers dreamt of dry, dusty plains becoming lush, productive industry and livable settlements. The settlers who moved to the Sunraysia region, including our soldier settlers, shared that dream. They developed sustainable farming practices which have modernised over the years. Throughout Mallee today, innovation is alive and well. Water drip systems have replaced flood irrigation and overhead sprays, and pipes have replaced open channels. Agricultural practices use less water and produce more due to developments such as no-till farming and large-scale sowing and fertilising systems. Creative solutions born out of necessity. I saw evidence of this on the farms of Alan Harmer and Ron Hards. I thank them for showing me around their properties, and I'm deeply grateful that Alan and his wife Rhonda have made the long journey here today from the Millewa. Alan has lived through the worst drought years of 1943 to 46, he tells me, and he tells me that the current drought is worse. Mr Speaker, Australia has faced many challenges as the driest inhabited continent on the planet. But these challenges have been met by people such as Alan, who are innovative and resilient. I have the great privilege of representing the people and communities of Mallee, from Maryborough in the south, Kahuna to the east, Eden Hope to the west and Mildura to the north. The electorate is just shy of 82,000 square kilometres, over a third of the state of Victoria, and boasts prime agricultural and horticultural land that grows stone fruit, grapes, vegetables, wheat, legumes, olives, almonds, dairy, sheep and beef, to name a few. The people of Mallee contribute an estimated $4.2 billion in agricultural GDP alone, with the total value of crops being 47.6% of Victoria's gross value and 14.2% of Victoria's livestock gross value, not to mention the other key industries that play a vital role in our economy, such as minerals and energy. The people and communities of Mallee are particularly resilient and thrive on challenge. Hundreds of farms across this sweeping electorate have responded overwhelmingly to the advent of the Wimmera Mallee pipeline. Towns at risk of demise have risen like a phoenix through determination and enterprise. Just consider Loverduck in Nil, True Foods in Maryborough, Cookers in Donald, Southern Mallee Diesel and Mechanical in Hopeton, the Woomalang Cooperative General Store and the small towns hosting the Silo Art Trail. If you haven't been through that, I encourage you. Community-based enterprises are a key component in connecting people to keep towns alive and services operating. Another example of resilience in Mallee is the extraordinary development and uptake of digital agriculture to access global markets. The Victorian Farmers Federation tell me that young people are coming back to the farm precisely because farming has become high-tech. They can reach global markets on their digital devices while driving their auto-steered harvesters. But opportunity does not exist for all. Mr. Speaker, I've had phone conversations many times with people who must stand on a chair, climb a hill or hang off a silo in order to have any signal. Community is built on communication. If you don't have it, the result is entrenched isolation. Nobody thrives in isolation. While mobile coverage has improved significantly under the coalition government in Mali, with 41 base stations funded under the Mobile Black Spots program, there is more to be done. I will be advocating for ongoing funding to improve connectivity for all in Mali. We face many challenges socially and economically, but the people of Mali work together to address problems and create solutions. They bring enterprise and endeavour to create and sustain wealth. I am pleased to say this Morrison-McCormack government takes our responsibility seriously to foster productivity and opportunity and to remove the barriers that impede social and economic growth. I will strive to assist the hard-working and deserving people of Mali in every way possible. One of the most significant challenges we face every day in Australia, and magnified in Mali, is that our relatively small population is spread over large distances. Roads, rail and bridges are essential for productivity and community life. Locals and tourists alike need safe passage to travel throughout this vast electorate. Our farmers and industry need efficient transport mechanisms and systems to access domestic and export markets. Millions of tonnes of product are transported on road and rail each year, but both are in dire need of significant infrastructure. Due to the hard work of the National Party, there will be more upgrades to the Calder and Western highways in the next 12 months. And while the Mildura rail line has been upgraded to standard gauge through to the Port of Melbourne, the Murray Basin Rail project lies in disarray. My farming friends in Murrayville cannot justify moving their product to market on rail at current speeds of 15 kilometres per hour. The Victorian State Labor government has failed the people of Mali. They must complete this project in a timely manner. As someone who travelled 30,000 kilometres on Mali roads during the campaign, I can tell you that an efficient regional rail system would bring many social, safety and productivity benefits for everyone. More trains means less B-doubles and B-quads on our roads. One of the key issues in my electorate during my campaign, Mr. Speaker, was water, surprisingly. Our most precious national resource. It must be measured and managed responsibly and in the interest of all if our regions are to thrive. Water cannot be a political football. Ongoing bipartisan support that commits to balanced social, economic and environmental sustainability must remain our focus. The Murray-Darling Basin Plan is critical to the Mali electorate. The people of this electorate rely on us getting this right. I look forward to continuing to work with the Minister for Water Resources, Member for Maranoa, to improve management of the plan, protect farmers and to ensure greater regulation, accountability and transparency. These complexities must be managed in a way that considers the continent, not parochial corners of it, as Edmund Barton would say. Our continent also requires dedication to a cleaner future. I am committed to emissions reductions, lowering energy prices while ensuring sustainability and reliability. Mali is perfectly positioned for renewables, but the capacity of our existing grid infrastructure is making some promising options unviable. I look forward to working further to scope to improve connectivity to the grid in Mali. I will also strive to assist all businesses in Mali, including 19,997 small and medium businesses, many family-owned, who are struggling to attract workforce. Media has recently highlighted this as it relates to horticulture, but it's not just an issue found in the agricultural industry. It is evidenced among both our unskilled and skilled workforce, from mechanics to veterinary practices and healthcare. I commend this government on its current focus on population issues and look forward to working towards implementation of policy to better support our businesses to grow and flourish in regional settings. Mr. Speaker, as for all Australians, access to quality healthcare impacts every person in Mali. Our regional cities are growing and with many retirees, while smaller towns are declining. We need responsive and sustainable healthcare, aged and palliative care. We need to focus on the unique rural and regional settings in which services are delivered. Funding models currently do not reflect this. One size does not fit all. Isolation is a key contributor to poor health outcomes and risks, and while isolation might be mitigated by telecommunications and a network of first responders, for Mallee communities, distance and the lack of workforce are key concerns. We need more doctors, nurses and allied health and mental health workers. We have reached crisis point, Mr Speaker. Our government is implementing some great initiatives to overcome some of the barriers to adequate health care that are specific to regional and rural areas, but more work is needed, and I will be a strong voice in this space. An integrated healthcare network model would ameliorate the current negative health outcomes many experience in Mallee. The model incorporates a multidisciplinary health team, including nurse practitioners and allied health professionals, with oversight by a doctor. Pharmacies need to be part of the conversation to improve health outcomes across the electorate. The role of nurse practitioner could be expanded to service aged care and palliative care and increase reach into remote communities. I am advocating for additional funding in our tertiary education system to support more local nurses to upskill to practitioner level for this reason. However, structural change is also needed, including broadening Medicare activity funding to increase nurse and allied health services to manage chronic disease. Our regional towns are in desperate need of these changes, and the change must be holistic. Perhaps my passion and focus on healthcare is in part motivated by my own experiences. In the decades I have lived in Mildura, Mr Speaker, I have needed to rely on emergency services and specialist healthcare on many occasions. A 5-year period of infertility meant many road trips to Melbourne to seek IVF assistance. The birth of my son at 27 weeks required a life-saving flight with air ambulance to the Royal Women's Hospital and then 4 months of neonatal intensive care in Melbourne for my son, while my husband continued working in Mildura. He would drive 6 hours after work to see our son in the early hours of the morning in intensive care. We had a precious day and a half together, and then he would drive back for work on Sunday night. Our third child was born following a 4-month period of bed rest for me in Melbourne under specialist care with a toddler and preschooler in tow. Supportive Family in Melbourne helped us through these events, but what about those who have no family in Melbourne? More recently, our first granddaughter, Emmeline, was the recipient of a liver transplant at the tender age of 14 months. I am proud to say she is here today. The Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne was her home for months, and the care she received was exceptional. We are so grateful to her donor and their family for their gift of life. It is for this reason, Mr Speaker, that I am establishing the Parliamentary Friends Group for Organ Donation, co-chaired by my colleague Dr Michael Freelander. I am thrilled to announce this during the National Donate Life Week campaign. I want to thank those members from both sides of the chamber that I've spoken to for supporting this initiative. Mr Speaker, I also wish to talk about my family's current experience with cancer and what it means in a regional setting such as Mallee. My father has courageously battled cancer over the last 2 years. All of his surgery has been in Melbourne. Again, we are grateful for the expert care he has received. But there are additional challenges when you have to travel to Melbourne for surgery, checkups, tests and treatment. My sister Deb, who is here today, and my brother Guy supported my parents while in Melbourne. But again, what about those who have no family or support in Melbourne? This is the greatest tyranny of distance, Mr Speaker. My father has been told this week that there is no more that can be done. He is about to embark on palliative care. As always, we will walk this journey together. Love you, Dad. Mr Speaker, our geographical and social isolation requires us to develop solutions such as fly-in, fly-out specialist care, retrieval services such as the air ambulance and telehealth, which connect specialist services with local health providers. I am pleased that the Morrison-McCormack government is focused on improving access to health through innovative measures, and I will be active to advance the well-being of all in Mallee. A person's postcode should not determine health status, but, Mr Speaker, for many in Mallee, it currently does. I have always been passionate about injustice and understand the need for holistic approaches to the barriers faced by regional and rural communities. Becoming a sociologist and social worker has helped me understand the cultural, political, social and economic factors